Hey guys, AuspiciousAussie here, and welcome to episode 11 of my Atlanta United series. And today's episode is going to be the first MLS game of the season against the Seattle Sounders. But first things first, let's go through the transfers. A little bit of transfer activity. As you can see, we've got these two deals set up for mid-season. Two American players coming from England, the first of which is Josh Emmanuel. Very solid 21-year-old American right back. Of course, a position we potentially need to replace. And I think he's a pretty good fit. Obviously, it's going to be a little bit expensive in terms of wages. However, he's a free transfer, homegrown, works out pretty well. And we're signing him from Shrewsbury. And the other player is Zelalem, who I believe is currently in the MLS in real life. But yeah, we signed him also on a free transfer from Arsenal. And similar sort of player, pretty good. You know, not the best in the world, but at 22, again, American nationality, doesn't take up one of the international slots. I think both of them are pretty good purchases, especially on free transfers. Anyway, if we go over to the transfer history here, as you can see, we'll go through the out players first. Tommy Redding was the player that FC Cincinnati chose first in the expansion draft. Unfortunately, we lost him. He was only the backup centre-back, but he was a pretty decent backup. And when he was called upon, he actually did pretty well. So, a little bit disappointed to lose him, but you know, there wasn't really much we could do. You know, we could only lock a certain amount of players in to protect them from the draft. And he was one of the players that we decided not to protect. The next player that left was Jose Hernandez. He left to Caracas. I believe they're Venezuelan. Yeah, they're in the Venezuelan league. He left for £400,000, possibly going up to $500K. In the future after a certain amount of appearances. And then the final player was one of the draft picks. He went out on loan. We just sent him down to the Atlanta United 2 team, which is essentially our reserve team that plays in a lower league. So yeah, he'll be on loan there for the season. We just had too many players in sort of central midfield and on the wings, and that's sort of what he's there for. Just like a last resort backup player that is quite versatile. Anyways, the first player we drafted in the Super Draft, if you hadn't watched the previous episode, which was a bit of an academy review, as well as the entire Super Draft. Well, I say entire, but we only made 3 picks. Eduardo Leon, very impressed with this guy, Generation Adidas player. So he only counts, I can't remember if it's 2,000 or something like that in terms of the salary cap. So I'm not sure if we can offer him higher wages and it counts lower. I'm not really 100% sure on the Generation Adidas contracts. But as you can see, he was our first pick. And he's a very solid left winger. Good pace, really good crossing, dribbling, first touch, passing and technique. Really good teamwork and work rate as well. 22, got a little bit of potential. 1 star, possibly to grow. And he's actually already scored he got an assist, but he did score a few goals during preseason. So I'm pretty happy with him. The next player we signed, of course, was Klaassen in the Super Draft. A 22-year-old striker, pretty decent. Again, he's got about 1 star of potential left to go, but he's got really good mentals and quite good strength and technique. And he's also a natural deep-lying forward. So I think that was the best striker that was left, if that makes sense, after quite a few picks had already gone. And yeah, Klaassen's actually scored a goal in the North American Champions League first round. We then signed Patrice Berger, as I said in the previous episode. Half a star potential for him. 22-year-old Frenchman. He did gain American nationality, as you can see there. Due to the international slots that we do have. They were all taken up, so he immediately took up the nationality. I mean, what can I really say? He's just a backup to the backup for now. Of course, he might get some playing time in a few seasons or so. We'll just have to wait and see. And Bocanegra was the final player. Didn't even really want to sign him, but yeah, we did. And we've sent him out on loan. And the only other player that we actually brought to the club was Isaac Bengston. He was signed from Halmstads in Sweden. As you can see, 18-year-old Swedish winger. Looks pretty good, good pace. Again, good crossing, dribbling, first touch, and technique. Similar to Leon, although he's 4 years younger. And one club actually wants him back in Sweden on loan. So, interesting. Only 75k, so I think that's a pretty cheap transfer. And happy to bring him to the club. Albeit he's probably only going to be a backup to both Barco and Villalba. So yeah. Worth mentioning that we did actually... Where are we? Trades. We did actually sell Kisaveta. As you can see, Chicago came in with an offer. We had to pay 80k general allocation fund. And they gave us their first round pick in the draft. Which is why we had one of the late picks in the draft. And I didn't really mention it, but that's how we actually got the 17th pick. So yeah, let's go over preseason very quickly. As you can see, versed 4 MLS teams and we versed 1 South American team. We managed to beat Real Salt Lake 2-1. Sporting Kansas City was a 1-1 draw. Today's opponents we managed to beat away from home 3-0 in Seattle. We could only manage a 1-1 draw against Orlando City. We smashed Atletico Nacional. I believe they're Colombian. Yep, Colombian. We beat them 4-0. And then came the first round of the North American Champions League. And we were pitted against Walter Ferretti, who are a Nicaraguan team, I'm pretty sure. And yeah, in the first leg we managed to beat them 2-0. Nagby and Barco on the score sheet. Obviously good to get 2 away goals and keep a clean sheet. Then in the home game, the second leg, we absolutely smashed them 5-0. Sort of expected. As you can see, Nagby on the score sheet again. Klaassen with a first goal for the club. Gressel, Pogba, and then Escobar. I just want to show you this Escobar goal very quickly because it was an absolute screamer from outside the box. And I mean, it was in the 91st minute. But as you can see here, we have the throw-in. Nagby plays it across. Laurentowicz to Escobar and just bangs it outside the semicircle. And yeah, pretty nice ball movement there as well from Nagby into Laurentowicz, who just did a little layoff. And yeah, decent goal. I don't really think there's anything else to go over, so I think we'll just go straight into the team lineup for today's game. It's going to be almost full strength, and I say almost because we are missing 2 players today. Gonzalo Martinez and Gressel both have injuries currently, which means we'll bring in 2 players that are backups. However, they're very capable I would say they're first team players, albeit, backups, if that makes sense. It doesn't make sense. But anyway, in goals, we're going to go with Guzan, Escobar at right back, Pires and Pogba as the 2 centre-backs. Bello will be the left back today. Laurentowicz will be the defensive midfielder. In front of him is going to be Remedi, who replaces Gressel. And then Nagby will partner him in centre midfield. On the right wing, we're going to go with Barco. The left wing, of course, our first round pick, Leon, on the left wing there. And then, yeah, Joseph Martinez up front. Didn't really play too well in the first leg of the North American Champions League. Only got a 6.5. He just really didn't hit his shots. Well, he didn't really find the back of the net with a lot of his shots. Anyway, the bench today is going to be Can, Robinson, Shea, Gosselin, Carleton, Villalba, and Klaassen. Yeah, looking for a pretty big result. I do have a few things to go over after the game here today because the next episode is essentially going to be immediately after this episode is finished. We have been drawn against Monterrey in the North American Champions League quarterfinals. And Monterrey are actually the most successful club in the North American Champions League. So, looking at a few of their players, just before I started this episode, it's going to be very, very tough. I think we can do it. I'm slightly positive, but I just think that there's a lot of quality there. As Remedi scores a pretty decent goal. Decent little cross there from Martinez. Joseph Martinez, that is. And we're 1-0 up, 5 minutes in. Probably the dream start for the MLS, if I'm being honest. Really happy to get a nice early lead against Seattle. Seattle are a pretty good team. They've got some really good players, like Rafinha, Loidero. Very, capable players. Leon, Barco, get in there. Leon with the assist. It's his second assist, I think. I think he got one in the first round of the Champions League. But yeah, we're 2-0 up. Very happy. If we can dominate quite well this season, I'd be pretty happy. Similar to last season, we only lost the one game, and we essentially won every trophy that was on offer. Ideally, I'd like to do exactly the same thing this year, albeit win the North American Champions League as well. However, that's going to be a very tough ask with a lot of these high-quality Mexican teams, such as Monterrey. I mean, we'll just have to wait and see how we perform in the next episode. Leon just scrapes the goal there. Hit the post with his first effort, and then managed to get the rebound, and it literally just trickled over the goal line. So, yeah, not too bad. Alright, so there's halftime. Let's advance here. We're 3-0 up, so happy days so far. Obviously, really, decent start to the way, I expect our MLS campaign to actually go. And then, can we have another goal? No, Remedi shoots it just over. I was going to say that'd be the perfect way to start the second half. But yeah, we are playing very well. Good to see the defense all on an over 7 average rating for the game. Very impressive stuff there. Anyway, let's make a couple of substitutions here. Laurentowicz might come off, although we don't really have anyone to replace him. What I could do is bring Laurentowicz off for Gosselin and then swap Remedi, as he can play defensive midfield naturally there. So I think that's probably the best thing to do. I don't really want to bring anyone else off. Obviously, we have the first leg of the quarterfinals next, so maybe I should be resting a few players. Actually, let's do that. Let's bring Joseph Martinez off, and we'll bring Klaassen on. Actually, Leon as well. He might need to play, so let's bring Shea on. I mean, even Bello's quite fatigued. Yeah, it's not great. Of course, this fixture had to be rescheduled due to us going into the quarterfinals. So, yeah, it's not ideal because the games are going to be very close together, and we will actually have a Colorado game in between the two legs. So that's also going to, fatigue our players quite a bit. We've got somewhat decent squad depth at the moment, albeit defense is lacking massively. We're lacking defensive depth big time. Hence the reason why I've signed a right back to come in during the middle of the season. But yeah, I mean, should be full time in about 15 seconds here. I'm pretty happy with how our first MLS game has actually gone. And like I said, I want to win everything. I mean, it's a pretty expected, goal to try and achieve with a team of Atlanta United's quality. And like I said, the only real stumbling block, I think, is going to be the Champions League, because a lot of these Mexican teams are at least our quality, if not better. And I think Monterrey might be slightly better. But yeah, that is going to wrap this episode up, guys. Thank you very much for watching. If you could drop a like, it'd be much appreciated. Subscribe as well if you haven't already. Hit the notification bell, and that should hopefully keep you up to date with all these episodes coming out in the future. Anyways, guys, take it easy and goodbye.